Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And before we fully jump on into this video, I do have a substantial warning to all XRP holders. I'm going to be talking about it here in the next tab that we're going to get to. And I really just want to reiterate a lot of things that I've said in the past around what happens within this market and around XRP and the possibilities and things like that. We'll get to that here in a second. But first, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about this article that came out on the 14th. And we do see the Fed is bankrupt. Now, we've been addressing and talking about problems around the Fed for a little bit of time, especially around the US economy, as we do start to see the US dollar's dominance kind of loosen outside of the US and its reserve status actually being questioned, right? But we do look at what's been happening around the Fed, and it does say here the bankrupt central bank. The Fed is bankrupt, and I don't just mean intellectually. Like a private bank, the Fed maintains some level of capital as a buffer against losses. When those losses exceed the value of its capital, the Fed becomes insolvent, meaning the liabilities it owes to others are greater than the total value of the assets it holds. The most recent data show that the Fed owes the Treasury over $41 billion, which exceeds its total capital. The Fed, by common standards, is indeed insolvent. So very interesting to see this. And I do believe that we will see the debt ceiling get raised. I believe that we will start printing again. I believe that we will start to see major inflation happen, leading to hyperinflation as well, because we already have major inflation. I mean, you go to the grocery store, you can see it. You pay your utility bills, you can see it. You pay rent, you can see it. All of it is a clear sign that, hey, inflation is still brewing. It's roaring, and we continue to see that the Fed wants to push it to the side and say, hey, inflation is dropping. But the problem is that whenever you see the CPI report, it doesn't really include anything in terms of like necessities like food and utilities and things like that. But the major warning for all of those individuals out there around the XRP and the XRP community itself, Jimmy Valley. We've actually talked about the Hill Capital on this channel before. We've talked about Jimmy Valley himself. And listen, I've drank the Kool-Aid in the past. I've talked about the Fed buyback. I've talked about the possibilities of the Fed utilizing XRP. I'm not going to sit here and delete old content and tell you guys that, hey, no, they still are going to buy. No, listen, I was wrong. I can fully admit that. I was blinded by the endless possibilities of utilizing XRP for liquidity and things like that. And, I'd love to talk about, possibilities and speculate a little bit, but it has gone on for far too long. Listen, we've seen this debunked many times in just the past year alone. And when we were talking about it, there wasn't a lot of debate on it. We actually discussed it. We talked about it. There's a lot of clear signs around it. There was quite a bit of substantial research put into it. But today, more than ever, we know that this is not going to happen. One, it doesn't make sense. And two, when we actually look at the individuals pushing this, aka Jimmy Valley and the Hill Capital, we know that this is all for monetary gain. And it's not our gain, it's his gain. We do see, so it looks like the Federal Reserve is unable to implement the XRP buyback. It's time for the SEC Gov and the IRS to lay down their weapons. Allow the king to emerge, rejoice, viva la XRP, thanks be to God. And again, as we do look at XRP, like we see this idea that, XRP is going to be the liquidity source for the Fed and the Fed is going to, no. Listen, we need to stop creating these insane, I would say, speculative narratives around XRP. Right now, currently as it stands, XRP is that token that everyone knows about, everyone understands the power and the potential behind it, and we are just waiting for something big to happen. Now, do I believe that that something big event will happen eventually? Yes, 100%. And I believe that that is the case ending. Once we do see that, then things will kind of start to move into motion. But this idea that the Federal Reserve is going to source XRP and buy back XRP, it's ridiculous. And I really do think that everyone should wake up and smell the roses that, hey, the Fed does not care about XRP. The Fed is not trying to adopt XRP. Why do you think that they want to release the FedNow service? They want to release that FedNow service. They want to accelerate banking collapses and ultimately usher in a US digital currency. That was their end goal since day one. Why? Because it basically fights back and counteracts crypto as well as stable coins, and it allows them to essentially control the system like they've always done. And the reasoning for this is, well, because they get to print an infinite amount of money. And here we have from Johnny Dean over here. He meant that when he said it. There's an infinite amount of cash in the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we have to do to make sure there's enough money in the banking system. And here we have from Unusual Whales, Federal Reserve's Kashkari in 2020, where he states there is an infinite amount of cash in the Federal Reserve. Listen closely to this.
To the person who is about to grab their car keys and go to the ATM and take out $3,000, you say what?
You don't need to. Your ATM is safe, your banks are safe, there's enough cash in the financial system, and there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the banking system.
And yeah, I mean, like, this is the ridiculous claims that we see from the Fed, is that there's an infinite amount of cash. Because guess what? When you run on a debt system like we have been, where we, one, print a ton of debt, sell that debt, or I should say loan that debt to other countries, and we pay on that debt, we pay interest on it. Yeah, why wouldn't you want to print more money? Why wouldn't you, say that there's an infinite amount of cash? Because that's what we've been doing for decades, is printing more money, more debt, loaning out that debt, or selling that debt, if you will, and then paying massive interest on that debt. And guess who's paying it? You, me, and every other major taxpayer in the US. This is the problem. And recently, yes, I do believe that the Fed is bankrupt, and I believe that they have been lying to us. Going all the way back to March 16th, I told you all that this was nonsense. We do see Treasury's Yellen tells Congress our banking system is sound. The testimony to the Senate is intended to calm the nerves of consumers and investors. That's all they want to do, is make sure that you are still out there investing, spending your money, and keeping your money in a bank. And we do see that down here. I can assure the members of the committee that our banking system is sound and that Americans can feel confident that their deposits will be there when they need them. I love when they also say that, like, the FDIC will cover them as well, because, hey, majority of a majority of Americans don't have $250,000 in their bank account, but it's okay. You don't need to. Remember from my recent video talking about the largest crash in financial history? Yeah, the FDIC can't cover all depositors, one, but also bail-ins. They will bail in your money no matter if you have $10, $100, $1,000, or even $100,000. They don't care. Now, also, over here, going back to March 19th, we did see a joint statement by the Department of the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. We do see down here, we welcome the announcements by the Swiss authorities today to support financial stability. The capital and liquidity positions of the U.S. banking system are strong, and the U.S. financial system is resilient. We have been in close contact with our international counterparts to support their implementation. Like, this whole idea that, like, the US financial system and economy is strong and it's resilient and, oh, liquidity is strong as well. Like, it's all nonsense. It's to keep you guys hyper focused on the fact that, hey, you don't need to, withdraw your money from the bank. You don't need to take your money out of the bank. It's okay. Everything is safe. Everything is sound. It's all nonsense. And we do see over here from Joe Carlicer, it's amazing that Buffett sold bank stocks that he held, or that he had owned, for decades. It's not getting enough attention. And yes, this did happen. Now, a lot of people will say that he started selling them in 2020, but no, these are like actual recent sales. They did get a little bit of media attention just recently with this is CNBC. Now, I'm not paying for this, obviously, but we do see Buffett tells why he sold most of his bank stocks except one. But then over here, we also do see Warren Buffett slams banks for hiding their losses and reveals he sold some bank stocks after spotting red flags. One of those red flags will most likely be what we talked about initially on. If you guys ever watched the movie The Big Short, incredible movie, by the way. I think everyone should watch that movie if you haven't already. But one of the biggest indicators that caused 2008 was being held and also hidden away from retail just recently after SVB. Can you guys guess what it was? It was CDS. credit default swaps. They started hiding it away from the general public around Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, as well as many other large banks. Once we start to see that, that was the warning signs that we needed to see in order for us to, one, take it serious that, one, we are going to see a lot more stress on the banks. We are most likely going to see banks continue to collapse. And I strongly believe that we aren't out of the woods yet. I strongly believe that we will see banks continue to plummet. And seeing Warren Buffett slamming banks as well as selling off his stocks is also another warning sign. Now, listen, is he always right on the money? No, but I believe that he is acting in good faith to himself, as well as what he recently seen around the banks as well. I think that as we continue to see banks hiding their losses, hiding certain things like CDSs, I think that it is a good time for us to not only de-risk outside of banks, but also get our money outside of banks as well. And the way to do this is to invest into physical gold, silver, buying crypto as well. A lot of people think that I'm crazy for saying like, oh, buy crypto. Well, look at what has happened so far this year. Look at what happened once we've seen SVB, collapse. Look at what Bitcoin did compared to what SVB did as a stock and other banking stocks. Yeah, that's why I'm diversifying within crypto and also outside of crypto as well. But also, over here, banks are witnessing the deepest year-over-year deposits contraction ever seen. Like, this is insane to me that we're basically at this point in time. And by the way, here you guys have 2008. Like, look at 2008 compared to where we are at now. Like, this is insanity. And you can see 2020 as well. Like, this is where most people were putting money into the banks. This is why, like, the US dollar went parabolic during this time. Now, yes, it did lead to the US dollar at some point in time collapsing. I think it happened like about a week after we started to see deposits climb drastically. This is also when crypto started to go a little bit parabolic as well. But for the most part, this is pretty crazy. And also, we do see over here, central banks are easing again, led by the Fed. Every currencies are on the races to the bottom. Their only goal is to the absolute control of everything by the introduction of CBDCs. And yes, I've talked about this. A lot of people think that it is a conspiracy theory, but as we look at the Fed and as we look at what's happening around the Fed, a lot of people think that, oh, well, the Fed is bankrupt. So this means that, they're going to adopt crypto. They're going to utilize crypto. They're going to source XRP. They're going to source this. They're going to source that. No. Listen, that's not their end goal. Their end goal is not to utilize XRP. Their end goal is not to utilize Bitcoin. It's not to utilize Ethereum. It's to utilize their own US central bank digital currency. And why? Because like I said in the beginning of the video, it rallies against crypto and it can ultimately be the door that opens for them to not ever touch crypto as well as stablecoins. This is why I said it in yesterday's video as well. I talked about, a central bank digital currency within the US and why the Fed wants to have a CBDC, why these central bankers want to have a CBDC. It's because it allows them to completely avoid adopting and utilizing crypto. Now, a lot of people will say, well, if the central banks don't adopt crypto and utilize crypto, doesn't that mean that our investments are going to be worthless? No, absolutely not. Listen, there's a lot of these tokens that will provide value to CBDCs. There's a lot of these tokens that are necessary for a CBDC-like system. XRP does have an incredible use case. I'm not sitting here fudding XRP and saying that XRP is useless. No. XRP as a bridge currency is a perfect use case that Ripple is actually positioning XRP for to bridge CBDCs. Now, like I said, I believe that CBDCs are inevitable. I think that central bankers at the end of the day will always win. So as we do see CBDCs launching, it does beg the question, okay, well, what technologies will allow this to happen? What will complement the system? And what is 100% necessary? And as you look at CBDCs and as you look at a bridge currency standard, you need a bridge currency standard that can allow for instant settlement in, we'll say 3 to 4 seconds. Also at a fraction of a penny for massive amounts of transactions, as well as massive amounts of money and value. And also interoperability, security. I mean, all of that goes hand in hand. And guess what has been around the longest doing all of that? XRP. So with that being said, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. Others, it's up to you all. Have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.